Welcome to Butterflies of Wisdom, everyone. I have an amazing guest with me today. She's not only a horse trainer of many types of miniature ponies, I believe. She is a TEDx speaker. She's been featured in the Huffington Post, and I have the amazing Dawn Shaw with me. And Dawn's information will be in the show notes, guys, so you can find out more about her and more about her miniature ponies. But I'm going to let Dawn take it away.
Well, thank you very much. Hi, Wynn. I really appreciate being on your show. And
Again, thank you.
I want to start off by saying that actually I don't have miniature horses. I have Icelandic horses, which I'm happy to say are big enough to ride. So miniature horses would be kind of small, but I can actually ride Icelandics.
I thought they were miniature. They are Icelandic. I knew I got something wrong. But before we talk about the horses, let's talk about your books and why you wrote your books.
Well, I have 3 books, but my first one is my memoir, Facing Up to It. And I wrote it because, well, I felt like I needed to. I was born with a tumor that when it was removed, it caused half my face to be paralyzed. So I've spent my entire life with a face that doesn't look normal. And that, of course, brings along a lot of challenges, social challenges, emotional challenges, psychological challenges. And so finally, after many years of learning to adjust and adapt and accept this, I finally decided that I needed to write my story. And that's how Facing Up to It came into being.
I was going to say that, as most of my listeners know by now, I have hemiplegia cerebral palsy, and after many, many years, like you, Dawn, of learning how to adjust to not a facial deformity, but a physical disability, I wrote my memoir at age 23, I Come a Win, just because I knew I had to get it out. So, okay. So if the tumor wasn't removed, obviously you would have grown up. Obviously it would have impacted your life. So at what age did your tumor get removed?
Well, actually it was shortly after I was born, because it was so big that it was affecting my ability to breathe. Well, first what they did is they did a tracheostomy, which they put a tube into my windpipe to bypass the tumor so that I could breathe, because I couldn't breathe through my nose and mouth. And I think it was within a couple of weeks after that they actually went in and removed the tumor.
Now, did you, I hate to ask this question, but you didn't get it when you were in the hospital. You got it coming out of the womb, right?
Yeah, it was, I guess they would call it congenital. We don't know if it is genetic, but it did form definitely in the womb, as you say. Okay.
So you got this thing in the womb, but you don't know if it's congenital. So did anyone else in your family have this type of tumor?
Not any that I know of.
Not any that you know of. Wow, that's an interesting story right there. And I haven't watched your TED Talk, but after we get off this phone call, I will sit down and watch your TED Talk. And I like the name of your TED Talk, Beauty is an Inside Job, because we have disabilities, Dawn and I both, but we're beautiful on the inside. So what made you come up with that title for that TED Talk?
Basically, my philosophy is that beauty is not defined as much by physical appearance, but it's defined by how we behave, the choices we make, the words, the way we interact with other people. The way I put it in the TED Talk is every human being has the capability of being beautiful, but we also all have the capability of being ugly.
Every human being has the capability of being beautiful, but we also have the capability of being ugly. I like that. And now, why do you think we, as humans, have the capability of being ugly? Is it from the words that we say to each other, or is it the bullying that kids do nowadays, or is it why do you think that humans can be ugly and not beautiful at the time?
Well, I think it's within human nature to pick on people that we perceive as being weak, and whether they're actually weak or not. It just, people that are different are somehow, I don't know if scary is the right word, but we do seem to have an innate distrust and sometimes even fear of people that are different. Now, I realize, so the reason I bring that up is because that does tie into behavior. Because, and I mean, we can all learn not to be ugly, to not be mean to each other. And that's the ugly behavior comes from making choices that are hurtful to others, that are maybe just selfish, self-serving to a point where other people pay a price. So those are things that we would not consider nice.
Those things that are not considered nice, and bullying one of them. Did you ever get bullied in school for your facial deformity?
Absolutely.
I am the lucky one that never got bullied. Never, ever, 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 ever. And all my kids know that. I don't know what it is, why I never got bullied, but you got bullied, and how did you come over being bullied?
One of the things that helped me was, well, having a good support system in the adults, my family, my teachers. The other thing was that I was able, partly because of these other people in my life, I was able to focus on aspects of myself that were positive, that were good, that were assets, like being creative, being smart, being talented. I had a gift for creative writing. So I learned to nurture, or I had nurtured within me the things that I was good at. So I had a certain degree of self-esteem because I knew that there were things I was good at. Now, exactly how it's all about resilience. How exactly that resilience developed, I'm not 100% sure, but I know that it had to do with being able to recognize that there were things about myself that were good, that were positive. And it didn't mean that when people said mean things to me or made fun of me, it did hurt. It definitely hurt. But what I was able to do was bounce back a lot faster.
Because you had a beautiful image on the inside.
I think that's part of it, for sure, because I mean, the person that I see in the mirror is not the person that I see in my inner eye, if that makes sense. But
That
I
makes
also
sense
know, believe me,
completely.
I also know that I am capable of that ugly behavior.
Oh, so, that makes sense completely. Now, okay, for those who are suffering with facial deformities and listening to this podcast, what would you say to them?
Well, hopefully they have some kind of social life, that they do get out with friends, with family. The thing that I find the most sad is people who hide themselves away because they are afraid of what other people are going to do or say. And one of the things that I talk a lot about now is we have to get to a point where it doesn't matter. I mean, yes, we're going to notice. Like I say, I notice when people stare at me, but that's not going to stop me from going to a movie. It's not going to stop me from going to a park and riding my horse, or for being on television, or whatever I want to do, whatever I have the opportunity to do. I am not afraid of being seen, because I don't want other people to be able to stop me from living the kind of life that I want to live.
You said that so eloquently. Please. I definitely agree with you. Of course people are going to stare at you and I because we're different, but yet we accept that. And we accept our inner beauty. Our outside may not be beautiful, but we accept the inner beauty and we're not hiding anything. We're open and honest with kids, and we're open and honest with adults at that.
Well, and we have to be open and honest with ourselves. Because, I mean, hello, my face is different. People are going to notice. Most of them are polite enough not to say anything, but every once in a while somebody does. And you have to step back and not be, unless they're really saying something horrible and mean, I mean, try not to take offense because, curiosity is normal. I mean, this is, maybe they need, to kind of learn a few manners, but we have to accept who we are and how we are. And that's part of it. It's like, okay, yeah, people are going to stare at me. Oh, well.
Yeah. Oh, well, is that. So what is your favorite book that you can recommend to all my listeners?
Could you repeat the question? I'm not sure if I heard that.
What is your favorite book that you could recommend to all my listeners?
Specifically regarding, people that are facial differences, or just in general?
No, it's just in general.
I read a lot, but I read a lot of, nonfiction. Fiction. I read a lot of, I don't necessarily read self-help. So it's kind of funny, but I don't have, particular books. I've been reading a lot of books that are written by people I know, because I know quite a few people now that are into speaking and are authors and whatnot, and that tends to be a lot of what I read now, but there's nothing that really stands out. I mean, I guess there's Finding Your North Star or Daring Greatly. Those are two that I have read that jump to mind.
Isn't that interesting that you say I don't read self-help books? Because I don't read self-help books myself, and probably I should, but I have never picked up a self-help audio book in my life, and yet because we accepted our disabilities at young ages, so therefore we don't need the preaching of self-help.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is stuff like books about setting goals. I mean, it really depends on what you want to do and what you need. It's like I mentioned, there's Daring Greatly, and of course the author's name just totally escapes me right now. There's Finding Your North Star. There's stuff like that that talks about goal setting and making sure that you're on the right path in your life. I mean, if
So
you're, yeah.
that's the books you're into, more goal-setting books than
Well, I haven't
self-help books.
read them in years. I mean, yeah, well, they would be considered self-help, I guess. But I realize, like I say, I've read a lot of books by people I know. Like there's a book called Changing Faces by James Partridge in the UK. He founded a wonderful nonprofit by the same name that helps people with facial differences. I read J.R. Martinez's book, Full of Heart.
Well, this is
There's
a good
Wonder.
one too.
There's the book Wonder, which is actually in the process of being made into a movie.
Well, I'm going to have to see the movie and read the book then, because what Wonder is about a facial deformity.
Yeah, it's about a young boy who had so many issues that he was withheld from going to school until I think it was about the 6th grade. And so it talks about integrating him into school life and some of the issues he has to deal with in terms of the way the other kids react to him and having to learn from, about how to deal with that. Probably the most valuable part for me, because it was not written by someone that actually has a facial difference, but one of the parts that really affected me emotionally were the chapters that were told from the point of view of the people around him, like his sister, his sister's boyfriend, some of the kids that he met. Some of the chapters are written from their points of view. And a lot of it's written from his point of view. But again, those where it's like, all right, that's okay, but that's not quite how I experienced it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So.
No. And what is your second book? I know you said you had 3 books, but what is your second book that you have published?
The second book that I did is right now it's an ebook only. It's called Threading the Mirror, and that just has to do. That's kind of a general. It's not specifically written for people with facial differences, but it is a more generic. It's kind of funny. I may not read a lot of self-help guides, but I write them.
Oh, geez.
So it's
you
more
write
general.
self-help guides. So, Threading the Mirror is one of them, facing up to it is another one. And which one, if you had to pick, which one would you recommend my listeners get?
Well, actually, it'd probably be my third book, which is called Facial Shift, Adjusting to an Altered Appearance. And that's where I really put out there what it's like for someone who has to deal with a change in their appearance. Now, I realize I've had mine since I was born, so how do I know what it's like to experience that kind of change? But what I really tried to do was say, look, it's not going to be easy, but it is possible. And I like that because it has it has personal stories mixed in with things that I think everyone can use. I've had good feedback from people that even if there's nothing wrong with their face, they've had to make some sort of adjustment in their life. Like they fell and broke a hip and now they have to use a walker or something else. So it's almost any sort of change in their life. Whereas people get older, I mean, if you think about it, we all change. Our appearance changes as we get older. And some people have a hard time even with that, which is why the plastic surgery industry is so successful.
Yeah.
And what I advocate for trying to accept yourself as you are. I am not a surgery advocate unless it's directly related to quality of life.
So you advocate for people accepting themselves. You are not necessarily advocating for them to remove the tumors and get plastic surgery unless it's directed to quality of life.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about removing tumors, I mean, I would have died if mine hadn't been removed. I'm just looking at it more from, I mean, if somebody just has a small tumor, and the problem is they are unpredictable. They may start out as benign, but then, I mean, mine was started out as benign, even though it almost killed me. But things can change as they get bigger. So I'm not saying that, you have to wait for it to be a problem. But I'm just talking about people who don't like their nose because they just don't, and then they have a nose job, or even people with facial difference. I mean, I would not have more surgery unless I had to fix an issue that related to quality of life, like breathing or being able to eat or something like that.
And didn't you say that in the Huffington Post article? I remember you got featured in the Huffington Post article, and I want to know what you basically said in that article. I will stick it in the show notes, guys. If, as a matter of fact, if you type in Don Shaw on the Huffington Post, I'm sure that article will pop up.
Yeah, because I have to admit you have one on me because I'm not sure. I have some blogs posted at the Mighty, and one of them might have been picked up by the Huffington Post, but I don't believe that I have actually submitted anything directly to them.
Well, yeah, so, you were featured. I know that because someone sent it to me and said Don Shaw was featured, and so that may have been it. The Mighty blog.
Okay, I'm actually on the Huffington Post because I really don't know which article you're talking about. I'm sorry when I don't know. I have to find out which one it is because I've had about half a dozen posted on the Mighty, and I'm not finding a search function on here.
I remember the title, Woman with a Facial Deformity, which was you, doesn't accept more surgery. She accepts life. And, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know that there was a couple of outfits in England, the Daily Mail, and the other one picked up an article that I'd done an interview for.
Maybe it was I'm pretty dang positive it was the Huffington Post. Maybe it was the Daily Mail. Now I can't remember what newspaper someone sent me out of. It might have been the Daily Mail.
Yeah, well, I do know. I know Google picked up one of the Mighty blogs. That was a interview I'd done. That was a few years ago, I think, a couple of years ago. The one that got featured on the British sites. And basically, I mean, they always sensationalize everything. But I thought the article was basically good. I mean, the stuff that they talked about was the stuff that I said. And it was, yeah, I mean, my philosophy is accepting myself as I am. I don't want to come out anti-surgery, but I don't say, oh, yeah, everybody needs to be fixed. I think there is a myth in our society that unless we have a perfect appearance, we can't be happy. I shouldn't say perfect, but you know what I mean. That we can't have a difference like you and I have and still be happy. And you and I both know that that's not true.
Yeah. No, that's not true at all. We are happy and we are functioning, and yet you and I have disabilities, yours is spatial, mine is physical, but yet we still function as we have disabilities.
Exactly. I mean, I admit, and one of the things that I am very grateful for is, I mean, people ask me, am I disabled? And the reality is I don't consider myself to be disabled. And it is one of the things that I have proclaimed that I am grateful for is that I am able-bodied. I may have a different appearance, but I can do pretty much anything I want to do. And in fact, it's actually possible that I might even be in a movie this coming year. And if that was something I never thought I'd be able to do. I mean, acting in a movie.
Well, congratulations on that.
Well,
Please.
it's not a sure thing. You know how those things go. It's not a sure thing, but it's something I'm really excited about because it would give me an opportunity that I never thought I would have.
So they want you to act in the movie.
Yeah, it's the story deals with people who have differences, facial differences, and it's an independent film that's going to be produced in Canada, and the guy who wrote it and is producing and directing it wanted to use people who have real differences rather than using makeup and prosthetics.
Well,
so he
hello.
did a research. Yeah.
I was talking to a friend of mine who's actually in the film industry, and I went to school with this person, and we were saying how the disabled should get played by the disabled.
I agree with you. In fact, that's one of my, I understand why they did it. In the upcoming movie Wonder, the boy who plays Augie, the main character, is not being played by somebody with a difference. He's being played by actually a fairly well-known child actor. And don't ask me, I'm not very good with names.
Yeah.
But he is being made up. And I know that he put a lot of effort into talking to young people that have differences to try to understand what they go through so that he could portray it. But part of it is because, well, I mean, he has a name. And I think Julia Roberts is playing his mom. So you get named people, you get people, you attract viewers to come watch the film.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
but
that's Hollywood.
No. That's
but
Hollywood for you. But no, the disabled should be played by the disabled.
I agree with you.
And the next time people are looking for a disabled actress, please just consider not making someone up and portraying them as if they have a disability. Use Google and Google a person with CP or a spatial deformity or a prosthetic limb or a paralysis. Use Google before you go to Hollywood. That's my PSA for today with Dawn. because we need these actors to really understand what we go through, and who the heck is going to really understand it unless they're a real life person living with a disability?
Definitely, I agree. And then that's one thing, like I mentioned earlier, J.R. Martinez, he has burns from an accident in Iraq, and his face is burned. And he actually did come back and become an actor. He was on one of the soap operas for several years, and then he went on to win Dancing with the Stars. So it does happen. It's just not as common as it should be.
Yeah, it's just not common as it should be. I don't know if I saw that season or not. So
I did not. I met him after the fact.
So, well, Google Dancing with the Stars, J.R. Martinez, and then you'll see it. But as I said to Don, and as I will say to you guys, if you guys are, especially independent filmmakers, considered disabled if you're casting the role for a person with a disability, aka even in Hollywood, consider that. Because who the heck knows more about a disability than a person with a disability?
Well, I mean, it does stand to reason, however, that they need to be able to act.
Yeah.
They still have to play their character.
Yes, I agree with you on that, but at least we got the disability one covered.
Yes, they don't have to be able to act like they have a disability. They just have to be able to act whatever part they're playing.
They're given.
And actually, to be honest, what's wrong with having a character that's being played by an actor who happens to have a disability? I mean, why can't somebody's sidekick or even a main character have maybe part of an arm missing? Or, I mean, there's no reason why everybody has to be gloriously handsome or gorgeous. I mean, there's actually more real people. So there's the other thing, is why not just create a character and never mind. You don't have to write the disability into the character. You just hire somebody that has a disability to play the character.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Those of you who are going to be listening to this, take that to heart. Those of you in the independent film industry. And Hollywood, take that to heart, what Dawn said. It doesn't necessarily have to be the main character. It has to be the sidekick that has a disability. But as long as we give people with disabilities equal opportunities, I'm happy with that.
Well, it's like the upcoming season of Doctor Who. They made a really big deal about, we actually made sure that we hired an actress who was black to play the companion, and we have another character. It's the first time a disabled character has had a regular role. And I'm like, they're making such a big deal out of it, and it's like, why didn't you just hire the right person for the job?
Yeah, exactly. I agree with it. Knock it off with the big deal and just hire the right person. If you're looking for a disabled person, hire the disabled person. And don't teach someone to be someone they're not. So where can people...
Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, on the flip side of that, I think that parents who are raising children that have some sort of disability or a physical difference, try to raise that child as normally as possible. I mean, it is possible to treat someone too much like they're special. I mean, try to just integrate them. I know it's not always going to be easy, and we're going to have to face some things that aren't very nice, but, I mean, I think the best thing you can do, my parents, I don't know if normalized is the right word, but they took me everywhere. They took me to national parks, to amusement parks, and I went out. I got out, and so I got used to being everywhere. And even though, I mean, my siblings will tell people that I was spoiled because, well, I happened to be the youngest, and I also needed a lot of special attention. But still, I wasn't, like, coddled. I wasn't treated like I was delicate. I mean, I was put out there in the world and encouraged to do things. So, I think that's important.
What stemming off of that, what would you say to the parent who's listening or the teacher who's listening and they think, oh, God, now I have to normalize my child because they have a physical disability and I can't. What would you suggest they do then?
I don't understand the I can't. I mean, socially, they should be put into situations. I mean, it's one thing. There's only going to be so much, for example, that somebody in a wheelchair can do. I mean, they're obviously not going to try out for the average track and field team. But there are things that they can do. They should have friends that they go out and do things with. I mean, get them out of the house. Get them into different places. And I realize especially, I know with chairs there's a lot of stuff going on with accommodation. It's not perfect. It's far from perfect. But just keep working on that. Keep working on. And a lot of teachers, for some reason, I shouldn't say that, but there is sometimes an assumption in our society that because we have a physical difference, that we have something mentally wrong with us as well.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, that one
you started on that. Don't get me started on. Oh,
yeah, you haven't been bullied, but boy, you sure have experienced that, haven't you?
Yeah, I haven't been bullied, but I have been judged out the yin-yang for my mental capabilities. Gee, bees. Oh boy, don't get me started on that one.
Yeah, because you speak a little bit slower, because your words are not totally clear. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're doing fabulous. But you understand my point. Those are the type of things that people focus in on. And like my face, because half my face doesn't work, they think that I am intellectually challenged as well. And it's not true. I mean, it may be in a few cases, but it is an assumption that we have to be very careful not to make.
And and that being said, where can people find you, and how can people get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you?
Okay, my website is facinguptoit.com, and I can be found on Twitter and Facebook the same way, Facing Up to It. So I'm at Facing Up to It on Twitter. I think it's Don Shaw at Facing Up to It is my Facebook business page. Don at facinguptoit.com. Or if you go to the website, there's a contact form. Those are always, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of because I'm just out there. I have so much out there. So,
yeah. You have so much out there, and the articles on Mighty.com, they're spread all over the place, but the main articles we talked about today on the Mighty.com, one got picked up by the UK Daily Mail, another one got picked up by Google, and I'm sure that one will get picked up by the Huffington Post, although that hasn't happened. But before I let Dawn go, I want to turn the mic over to Dawn and have her ask me 2 to 3 questions.
I hadn't really put a lot of thought into that, Lynn. I already know that you snowboard. I read your book, actually. I think the things that you do are amazing. So I don't really have any specific questions for you. I admire you that you do what you do. You've written books. You've gone out. Here's a question. Do you still snowboard?
Do I still snowboard? Yes, I still snowboard, although I thought my snowboarding career was going to come to an end, but yes, I still snowboard, and yes, I still love it, because it gets me out there and it makes me feel, quote, unquote, normalized. But yes, I still snowboard, and I thought my snowboarding career was going to come to an end, but obviously that isn't going to happen due to my bad back. So yes, I still snowboard, and so yeah, that is something I do enjoy. And as Dawn and I said earlier, we don't hide our disabilities. We don't hide ourselves in a closet. I mean, I'm going to next week speak to a bunch of kids about, believe it or not, an exoskeleton. And so and the kids know I have cerebral palsy. The kids know I use this thing. So we don't hide our disabilities. So I think the message for me interviewing Dawn, and I know Dawn will echo this, is if you can, don't hide your disability. Just accept it and be out there.
Well, and actually to add to that, I mean, our situations are very apparent. I mean, people are going to look at you, they're going to look at me, and it's right there in front of you. There's a lot of people that have what we call hidden disabilities. And yet, I mean, we all have something about ourselves that's a little different. I mean, and some people that that may be hard of hearing or deaf. I mean, you can't always tell by looking at them. So, I mean, every one of us is different, and even those who judge us, I mean, they have their things too. None of us are perfect. Yeah. We just happen to wear, one of our imperfections we wear on the outside.
Yeah, none of us are perfect. We are imperfections on the outside, but for those of you who do have disabilities, as Dawn said, try and get out there and try and show the world that you are beautiful on the inside. You may not be beautiful on the outside. You may show your disability, but you're certainly beautiful on the inside. And that's, I think, the message that Dawn was and is trying to speak to you guys about today. Accept your disability for what it is.
Yeah, and don't give anyone else the power to make decisions about what you should or should not do with your life. I mean, that's up to you.
Yeah. Yes, Dawn. Yes, I think that's a lovely way to end this interview. Don't give anyone the power to take over your life, even if you have a disability. Now, granted, you're talking to almost 30-year-old me, and I'm not going to admit Dawn's age here, but
I don't care.
You're talking to two adults with two different disabilities, one with a facial disability and the other one with a physical disability. But don't let anyone trample your power. Don't let anyone trample your power to live the life you want to lead.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I appreciate Dawn coming on and sharing just a little bit of the story. And as I said, her information will be in the show notes to you guys. And how you find those show notes is if you tap on the cover work of this podcast, Butterflies of Wisdom, you will find Dawn's information that will automatically flip over in iTunes, on Stitcher, on Google+. And then Dawn will happily get back to you. And this podcast is sponsored by Grace by Grit. Grace by Grit is a clothing line out of California. This podcast is sponsored by Go Kitter, Kitger. Kitter's a desktop Twitter app, which if you compose tweets, they put the hashtags in for you. And so Grace by Grit is actually giving you guys 20% off. And so I would like to thank those two. And again, thank Dawn for coming on and sharing her incredible story. And I hope you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode. Thanks to you guys.
Okay, so that's that.